Gotcha Force is probably one of those games that shows up the most in the kind of video that is titled the most underrated exclusive Gamecube games together with Go-Go Hyper Grind, but does it deserve that? Judging by the price, it must be the best game ever created on this planet that we call Earth. Just because you paid a lot of money does not mean you will obtain happiness though, like when you get an escort and you realize you have wasted your first time ever and will never get it back, same with the $50 you paid for it and ruined something that should have been special. It's better to become a wizard than to do it without the required love. Right from the start, the worst thing about the game is that the Western intro removes the Japanese singing and replaces it with nothing. It's just the instrumental now and still nice to listen to, and maybe it's better than replacing it with bad singing, but still. Maybe I was just too spoiled with tons of great German dubs in my childhood. If I were American, then maybe I wouldn't mind it since I would be so used to getting terrible openings. Even though the first American opening for One Piece is so bad that it becomes good again. You are you, since you can name the main character. Who cares about his real name, even if it was right there on the screen? And for once in your life you get to be the main character with all of the things that comes with it. Having a childhood bro who is way lamer than you, but hey, he's your bro and you're his bro. The typical shy girly childhood friend with mana who is as sweet as a whole cube of sugar that is getting stolen by ants. A tomboy who is the coolest girl around and is called Usagi, the Japanese word for bunny. Yeah, I studied Japanese through watching anime for years, I bet you can tell. And a whole bunch of other friends. The other thing that comes with being the main character is also getting to see a meteor fall down, and it's actually a toy from space with huge powers behind it, the Gotcha box. Sadly, not all of them are friendly, and the evil ones are called the Death Force, ready to invade Earth. Now you might wonder, how could these little things invade a whole planet when we got atomic weapons and all that? Well, only other Borgs can hurt them. So if you try to nuke them, they survive it, somehow, probably. The game never really explains why only other Borgs can hurt them. Sometimes things are just the way they are in life. So now with the power of G-Red, you have to gather GF energy to be able to command more Gotcha Borgs to win and protect the Earth. Something that would be impossible for me in real life, but luckily it's a video game, so GF energy is easy to get by just winning battles and having other kids join the cause. Even if they were evil before, everyone can change, I think. Actually, I don't believe in that. Once you are evil, you will forever be evil and have to be brought to justice. Except if you're a cute girl like Orochi. The whole time I was playing the game, I thought the evil guy is a guy, but it's actually a girl. She was just possessed for 99% of the story and then turns normal again after you save the world. I saw a wallpaper once before playing the game and saw this purple-haired girl and was waiting for her to show up the whole time, but she never did, except for at the end because that's Orochi. Poor Usagi, without Orochi it would have been an easy win for her. At first you start with only your commander, but eventually you are allowed to now get lucky and pick up other Borgs or parts of them that will eventually turn to Borgs when you get enough parts. All done randomly. The more you play in battle, the higher the chances are of getting them. Because sometimes you will see yellow and red battles on the map. The yellow ones are kinda there to farm, the red ones will most likely progress the story. So every once in a while you can decide if you want to move on already or if you want to try to get more Borgs. Like the heroes will show up a bunch of times and you think you won at least one of them, so you battle them each time they show up and then you obtain the one you did not want to have, so now you gotta wait till they show up again and hope this time you will get the one you want, or another time. I never thought it would be something I would ask for, but I wish the game would have had given you a real gacha machine, where you can get currency to then spend on it to get random shit and hope for the best. Maybe a mix between both. You still obtain Borgs and parts by battling, but also a bit of side money to spend on gacha, like in real life if your real job does not pay enough so you sell your body, or parts of it. Luckily, the game unlocks a special mode after 2 playthroughs where you can play every mission you want till you obtain the Borg you want. I did not unlock it myself because doing a second playthrough so close to my first one would have burnt me out on the game, but yay for reading the wiki so I don't miss anything and complain about something even though there's a solution for it. So if there is a Borg you really want, you just have to beat the game twice and then play one mission over and over till you get the drop you want. Still not the best solution, but hey, that's life. If you collect shinies in Pokemon, then do not listen to what I will say now. They exist in this game too. Most Borgs have different color schemes you can get and some really special ones like gold or black. There's a whole page about their rarity and all that on the wiki, so if that's your kind of fun, you are set. The only shinies I ever got were from letting people use my Safari Zone in X and Y because I had a Detour one and sometimes people gave me cool free shinies for letting them use it. If there ever would be a sequel, that's one of the changes I would wish for, letting people color their Borgs however they want, like a Gunpla model, since you don't have to follow the actual colors if you don't want to. I don't want to grind for different colors, I just want to color up the parts I want to color for free and without wasting my time. And there's even a glitch you can do that can transform one block into another one that you really want, but look at how many steps it has. It can also freeze your console and probably mess up your save file. Just looking at it makes me happy though. It reminds me of times when people had those notes about how to get Mew in Pokemon. First you have to do this, then fight this trainer but fly away the second he sees you, then go here blah blah. If someone showed this to me back in the day, I would think he's pulling my leg, but I would still try it out. Most people would probably just play this on an emulator where it's way easier to manipulate the save file and all that to give yourself the blocks you want without grinding, so you don't even have to try this, unless you play on a real Gamecube or on the Wii. This was all about collecting, but what about fighting with them? How does that work? There's different kinds of bots, like support types who can heal or give buffs like being faster, ones that are the speedy types that can zoom around and may not do the most damage, but they're hard to catch. Some are tanky, some are actual tanks, cars, and it would blow up the video if I would explain all of them to you in great detail, but let me say this, there's tons of variety and a whole bunch of bots for everyone. I like edgy ones and cute ones, and there weren't too many edgy ones I picked up during my playthrough, but a whole bunch of cuties. Why would I want to play as a male toy if I can play as a female toy? Aren't women toys anyways? Other people would just always pick the car box, best knights, there's something for everyone. Sadly, you actually have to use your brain sometimes since you got limited GF energy. I wonder why I lack GF energy in real life, and every board takes up a bit, or a bit more. That doesn't mean that the more expensive ones are always stronger than the cheaper ones, but it kinda does mean that sometimes. It gives it a tactical touch. Do I want to use a cool fire-throwing dragon for 1000 points, or would I rather have 5 little box for that price? It's up to you, and sometimes you may even wonder if it isn't time to change a box for a specific main mission because you keep failing in it. There's one with a lot of dragons and the Gatling gunner just melts through them despite only costing 1/3 of a full dragon. Because they're so big it's almost impossible to miss your 100 shots. But against tiny speedy bogs he becomes way less effective because they will keep dodging. You have two main buttons to attack with, B and X. B is often used for shooting attacks while X is used for melee attacks, but it depends on the Borg. They can also be charged. The other thing that depends on the Borg is the kind of jump you get. Some Borgs only can jump up to 3 or 4 times, while others have a jetpack or dash they can use for a couple of seconds. Or their flying is a whole skill like for these flying ladies. I just can't pronounce the word correctly, that's why you will never see me making videos about the insert the word here profile games. Because I dread having to say that word. I think we all have at least 1 or 2 words where we will never be able to pronounce it easily, regardless of how often you try it. And there's so many different attacks that it would again be a bit too much to show tons and tons of them, especially since I also didn't got some of the Borgs I wanted, like the one that can turn you into a cockroach. Yeah, they shoot at you and now you turn into a cockroach for way too long. But it reminded me of playing the Hoi Hoi Sun game on the PS2, where I also made a video about it and that game is fun, would recommend. In general, those status effects felt pretty strong, like the one from Pop Honey. She has an attack where she makes you listen to music and you dance and your controls and spinning are inverted for like a solid minute. Even the big cannons can't resist her music. Which owned me here because those cannons basically one-shot you if they hit you, but they always shoot into a straight line, so if you dodge that beam you can easily beat it up. But here you can see a spinning cannon that will mess up your life and that of your whole family. But if you're lucky, they get dropped and you can play as this big cannon yourself. Don't do it like me though. These cannons at points will probably ruin your mood, or these ICBM missiles in a mission where you only fight against them. For extra immersion you can pretend you're a little kid that lives in a random country in the Middle East that sometimes gets bombed by Israel and try to survive. One thing that I disliked is that you are not allowed to change your Borg in the middle of a match, except if you die. Sure, that's also how it works in real life, but it doesn't have to be like this in a video game. It hinders a more strategic approach unless you already know what you are fighting against. Like in this cockroach mission, I didn't know there were only going to be cockroaches that basically do nothing but they're fast, so they're hard to hit with a character like Pop Honey. So I had to get myself get killed slowly to get to the next Borg, or I could have just quit the fight and re-entered it with a strong Borg from the start, but that's lame. I like the approach of you made your own grave, now lay in it, but it only really feels like it works when you can see what you're up against. And you can't, you gotta blindly jump into a fight except if you count the flavor text on some missions. But I wouldn't know what it actually entails. Sure, I know I gotta fight against the divers, but what do the divers do? You will only know after unless you already encountered those Borgs. Just give it a cooldown of like 3 minutes, so you really have to be sure if you want to switch your Borg out right now or not, without being able to change them too fast. Before most fights, you are also allowed to pick a teammate, and some are more about damage and others more about the support. But I don't care about any of that since I pick who is the coolest, so I always went with Usagi. But for example, if you pick Mana, she has mostly supporting blocks that will heal you and all that. Usagi sometimes also gave me some buffs like moving faster. You can also use support blocks, but do you really want to help out the AI? I'm not so sure about that. Maybe if you play 2 versus 2 against a friend with another friend, it would be fun to be a heal slot, but for the computer, you don't even get praise then. If you want to help out the CPU, you can press the Z button to actually log onto them and you can try to heal above them. Yay, fun. Balance wise, the game is like all over the place and I love it. Mostly because it's an offline only game. There is no meta or anything like that. Just pick what you enjoy and you can beat the game that way without any worries, even if some fights will make you hate your life. Thinking about playing this game online though, it would be a total nightmare of people running the strongest teams possible and all that because they saw their favorite Gotcha Force 2 YouTuber tell them what the strongest team to use is instead of going for what they think is cool, and I hate that. Halfway through the game, for example, your G-Wad levels up to G-Wad Omega Alpha Destroyer of the universe and feels pretty much overpowered because his combos will smash you all the way to Mars. Then there's the Vampire Knight who heals himself almost to full with his spinning attack but loses HP every second, and so many more that will make you think, man, this feels OP as hell. Borgs can also level up, but it mostly only makes the HP higher or gives them more ammo, and it depends on the Borg. So the more often you use a Borg, the stronger they can become. Eventually the game does kinda start to drag on and on. You come to a point where you think it's the final boss battle and beat it, just to get told no, the evil forces are taking over the whole town and even the adults have noticed those toys running amok. So you now have to clean out the whole city, and then again, pretty much. Without any new stages or changes except for new enemy Borgs and 2 special stages that I will talk about, but first I have to complain. I know there's a distaste for stage gimmicks sometimes, but I think it would have helped the game if the stages felt more different from each other. While they all have a different look to them, they do not change except for the covers. Like instead of a sandcastle, you can hide behind a normal table, etc. The layout of the stages does not really seem to matter when you play against a CPU, maybe it changes if you play against real people. Some beams can also just go through the cover anyway, so you need to dodge instead. What about a football flying across the stage in the playground that hits everyone if you don't dodge it? Add something falling down on the construction site map maybe. Little things like that where you really think you play on a different map, especially since the game does not even have many of them. It makes sense that the houses of the kids only have one map each, but how about a second playground or school map, changing at least the layout of the furniture around? You will see the same maps over and over, and you already saw all of them after only like 20% of the game without ever mixing them up except for the enemies you fight on them. Except for 2 stages that are right at the end. On one of them you fight on top of the whole city because this time you actually grow big. Something I can't relate to since I'm short. And that's a really cool moment in the game where you feel wow, shit just got real. But it's only one map, still cool though. The sad thing is, you will not see this again unless you go play through the whole game again and then get that special mode so you can play this mission over and over to see different Borgs being bigger. And then there's the final boss, where you protect Earth from the Galactic Emperor. Reminded me a bit of the final boss from Sin and Punishment, a game everyone should have played at least once in their life too. Go play it, you won't regret it. And he's a real pain in the ass, especially if you got a melee focused character first that barely can damage these turrets to then get sucked into his beam to get beamed up. Star Trek reference. Then you destroy more turrets to be able to damage the big brain, and eventually he shoots ice meteors at you that makes you wonder, how do I dodge them? So you randomly dodge around till the boss randomly shoots lasers all over the place and you win. Somehow, I got really lucky I think. I think I could have gotten stuck here for way more than 3 tries. Then the game comes to an end. Just like our own life one day, with you having to say goodbye to your Borgs, but at least the world is saved and now you got 3 girlfriends with Usagi, Orochi and Mana. And a bunch of stats about how many battles you have won or lost. Please don't call me a noob for only having a 90% win rate. And no, I also won't make a joke about the number of Borgs I got, because I can't think of a funny joke with it. Since I'm pure and wholesome, so I don't even know what 69 stands for actually, and don't know why people love that number so much. It also shows you who you enjoy teaming up with the most. I wonder if you can tell who my favorite is. It's really hard to see. I don't blame you if you can't. If these things were real back in the day, you could have maybe bought some of them for like 20 bucks and had a whole army. Nowadays it would then be worth 10 times the original price, and instead of playing with them, grown men would just prefer to put them onto their shelf in a package to try to impress their other man-child friends, just like how it is with Beyblades, Pokemon cards and all the other things from our childhood. Little fun fact about me, I got a tiny little scar because a friend's Chinese knockoff Beyblade was powerful enough to cut into my flesh. It's really hard to see, so I wouldn't even call it a real scar, but still. Those things were dangerous, and who would buy a real Beyblade if you could get one for way cheaper that even could kill someone? And now, a bit of a real talk. Is there really such a big difference between someone that collects Funko Pops and someone who collects video games and doesn't play them like 99% of collector YouTubers, people who collect anime figurines and all that? Not really, except that people who collect games just for the sake of it completely miss the point of them. It makes sense to want to have every single Zelda game if you love that franchise so much, but those people at least also play the games. It's not just a random dude who buys every possible game for a console just so they can say, look at me, I own every single Wii U game, wow, I'm so cool. Nobody even cares about shit like that anymore because there's just too many of those anyways. Back in the day, I was amazed by the angry video game nerd and his room full of games, because it also has a special feeling to it. It didn't just look like a room to store video games in, it looked like a room where video games got played in. Which has also changed since he hasn't touched a game himself in like 20 years, thanks for that, Mike. But then you look at the room of the average collector on YouTube and it's the same ugly white IKEA shelf with tons of games on them, without zero personality. Maybe a few amiibos here and there, some stupid neon light sign that says Nintendo or have the PS controller symbols on it, because OMG it's so 80s to have neon lights. It's not a room to play video games in anymore, but just a room to present your collection to other balding man-children YouTuber friends who wear the same brand of stupid looking caps while talking about the same 10 underrated games on the Super Nintendo to drive the praises of the games up. And that probably also applies to toy review channels where you think, yeah, those guys probably make more money than me, but at least I am not eternally trapped in a nostalgia bubble where I have to think I peaked when I was 7 years old and played in the sandbox with my friends with He-Man or Action Man figurines. Not saying you need to be a minimalistic person who owns nothing to have fun in life, but too many people nowadays are just too fixated on the size of their collection. It's like a great butt. You can have a big ass, but what's the point of it if it looks ugly and deformed? Sometimes less is more. It's the shape that matters, not the overall size. Same goes with any kind of collection. I respect the person who collects the things where you feel their heart is in it, not the type of person who buys stuff just to be able to say they own it or being able to sell it at a profit one day. Someone who buys every FIFA or Call of Duty game every year is more respectable than that kind of person. And a bigger gamer too, because at least those play their games. Collectors like that are only a tiny bit better than actual skullpals, and I love the irony of them complaining about skullpals as if they have no idea that they actually feed each other and one would not be able to live without each other to a certain degree. Like I mentioned, it also has a multiplayer mode that I can't really try out except if I want to play with myself, and I do not do that anymore. I'm a changed person. I have seen the light and I will not be touching myself anymore. That includes doing showers too, so I may smell a bit weird. And if a part of myself itches, then I just let it itch. Why scratch myself? It builds even more willpower. I got too much of that now. But to me it seems a bit like the kind of game that would kinda suck in a specific circumstance that we all have went through. You go over to your bro's house to play a game and you never played it before because you do not own it. You know who owns it, your bro, and he plays it all day long and knows every single Borg and what they can do and all that. So he tells you to pick some that maybe look cool to you and he won't even explain the controls to you before he already attacks you and you can't do anything against it. That's what happened to me whenever I played one of the Dragon Ball Budokai Tenkaichi games at a friend's house. Never even gave me 5 minutes to get used to the controls or anything like that. Maybe he did that to me because I always owned him at Smash Bros. Melee, a game we both owned though, so he could have just trained to become better at that one, and losing in Gotcha Force also kinda makes you a bit angry, because sometimes you get stun locked for like 10 seconds and have to be pounded into every howl you possess before you can even move again, despite iframes existing mostly when you get knocked over, but it doesn't matter, they just attack you and attack you and attack you. Gotcha Force reminds you of something that never existed during your childhood, unless you played it when you were young, which I did not, then it obviously existed. It sent you back to those days where you sat in front of your TV watching Digimon or Pokemon, Beyblade, Yu-Gi-Oh! And all the others, and then playing some games after or meeting up with friends to play with the current hottest toys, if your parents bought them for you. It's an unbalanced mess, but that's part of the charm, and charm is spelled big in this game. Everything about it is just charming, maybe also because I love the whole aesthetic of being a small thing in a normal world like all of those CS maps back in the day, or Chibi Warbo and tons of others. It also made me want to play other mecha kind of games again like Custom Warbo that also exist on the Gamecube and even featured Hatsune Miku before she even existed. Maybe they got her design from there. Or I also want to play one of the virtual on games again. Those would be my recommendations for people who maybe look for another game that is like Gotcha Force, even if they're still different since they do not nail down that early 2000s anime toy look. This one just has a special something about it. I really wish it would get a sequel, but that seems unlikely, unless it gets onto the Switch Online thing. Any numbers tell Nintendo and Capcom, hey, maybe we should do another one. I would even just take a remaster with an actual online mode. The Switch Online mode wouldn't really count since it's, well, Nintendo after all. With that said, I hope you enjoyed the video and will have a good day, a good night, or whatever fits your time zone. I finally can remove this game from my bucket list, but I will for sure keep coming back to it to get the second playthrough done so I can grind for my beloved killer girl. There will be a few bugs in the game that will make you want to grind for them, or on them, or have them grind on you. Bye bye.